Merry Christmas, jerk faces. It's your boy Andy, and you're watching the Circle of Jerks podcast Christmas special. With me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on, everybody? I got my Christmas Rolling Rock, so I'm in good cheers.
Yes, exactly. He's filling himself with Christmas cheer for this episode.
I got exactly what I wanted.
Exactly, because he was a good boy this year, and and to attest to that is the man himself, Santa Claus.
Whoa! I would join you, but I've been flying, so I can't.
I know, no drinking and sledding.
Yeah.
No, Rudolph.
Yeah, Rudolph is the only one with the red nose. All right.
Yes, he's the only one to guide me.
The reindeer drunk off their ass, but Santa's getting ready for next year already.
All right, exactly. Well, Santa is taking his one day off, prior to getting started for next year, to sit with us and to do our Christmas special.
When a jerk asks me to participate, how can I not resist?
Right? How could you refuse?
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're actually doing a movie starring Santa Claus.
That's right.
We'll be reviewing Miracle on 34th Street. This
Great
is a great movie. We're doing kind of discussion that we had prior to filming, but this isn't even the first one. But it was the first one in sound, I guess, and which stars. What was that?
It's the first talkie Miracle.
Yeah, it's the first talkie Miracle on 34th Street, starring Edmund Gwenn and Maureen O'Hara and a very young Natalie Wood.
I think this is her debut. I think this is her film debut. She's only 8 years old.
I see. Yeah. And I mean, not to get start off too early on, but I'd have to say that she did a really good job. I was very impressed.
She is a incredibly. You can see like why she was a big A-lister throughout her career. She is so polished. I've never seen a child actor that polished.
Right. Yeah. Especially like her cynical take. Again, not to jump too far ahead, but just like her cynical looks that she gives, like the side eye that she gives to what's his face,
Edmund Gwenn, or
no.
or the Fred Daly.
Yeah, John Payne. Yeah, like the side eye that she gives him. Oh my God, it's like that's a every child actor should learn that side eye.
There's very few in history as child stars, and there's been quite a few of them, and they stand out. Gary Cooper will be one on the male side.
That's right.
Mickey Rooney. There's a few that
Shirley
stand
Temple.
out, and you got Shirley Temple, of course, and you got Natalie Wood, and there's a few others that we could spend an hour just talking about them, but Natalie has always been, one of my favorites, her and Shirley Temple. But this movie this has catapulted her whole career because she's so darn good at that age.
Well, I think it's crazy because this is her debut film. She's 8 years old, and she's acting circles around people. It's just crazy to me. I've never seen someone that young with that level of ability in acting. It just blew me away. Because this is actually, for people are probably gonna, laugh at me. This is the first time I've ever watched this movie.
I'll laugh at you.
For me, I wouldn't say it's my. Here's the thing: I've seen this movie, but never like fully through. Like because I'll catch it sometimes on like back in the day I used to just catch like parts of it on TV during Christmas time, but I never be able to watch the whole thing straight through. So this was actually my first time watching the entirety of the movie, and I gotta say seeing the whole thing, it really makes you like appreciate the entirety of it.
And I think what people will, if you're not, if like Christmas movies are not like your thing, this is not. It's kind of like what we did last year with Santa when we did It's a Wonderful Life. It's not your typical Christmas movie. It actually has a lot to say. It's not the typical hokey, everything works out on Christmas type of thing. I mean, everything does kind of work out in this movie, but it
It's
has
just
a
not
lot.
in the usual way.
Right. And I was, I don't know why I chose just not, I didn't want to watch this movie for some reason. I'm one of those like I'm the Grinch. I don't really like a lot of Christmas movies, but I'm so glad that we watched this one. And
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, well, yeah, that because what was it on Nocturnal Transmissions? We did a Christmas Story, and you were saying that you kind of had a similar feeling going into that movie, but then after you watched it like again, I think after some time you actually appreciated it.
I did not appreciate that movie as a kid. I appreciate it as an adult.
Mm.
Um,
Because these two movies that we're talking about right here have a deeper meaning than just a movie. It's got a real strong message behind it, and something that I think everybody as a parent and as a Santa Claus really appreciates because of the innocence of a child, and where do you go with the Santa? In the movie they portray a negativity towards Santa and trying to be more in the times, instead of letting a child use its imagination and grow within her mind. A lot of kids don't have a sibling, and that's their only lifeboat far as to play is your imagination. And
that's
this
yeah.
this really gets into it pretty heavy when you really sit down and take in the message. Uh, you sit back and you kind of go, "Oh wow, it's a heavy hitter, and it hits in the heart. It really does. It hits in the heart because of the innocence of the children."
Mm. Well
Uh,
said.
Andy, do you want to hit us up with the synopsis real quick, and we can kind of go through the movie a little bit deeper?
Yeah, of course. All right, here's the synopsis for Miracle on 34th Street. In this Christmas classic, an old man going by the name of Kris Kringle fills in for an intoxicated Santa in Macy's annual Thanksgiving Day parade. Kringle proves to be such a hit that he is soon appearing regularly at the chain's main store in Midtown Manhattan. When Kringle surprises customers and employees alike by claiming that he really is Santa Claus, it leads to a court case to determine his mental health and, more importantly, his authenticity.
Right off the bat, I
Mm-hmm.
have to say that of all the Christmas movies I've seen, and there's a lot of them, the I have to say the best person to play you, Santa, is Edmund Gwynn. He is so good.
Hmm.
He is.
Yeah, you can see the truth when he speaks. You believe him. I mean,
I totally believe him.
Mm-hmm.
he delivered that so well. I mean, I don't know too many other actors that could do it sincerely as he did. I mean, in all respects, he is Santa.
Yeah,
Same as a lot of us that portray uh, the good old man, like me. I believe in it because of the meaning behind it all. So when you get a grasp of what Santa really is and the holidays and Christmas, and then put it in a child's mind, then you've got the crux of the movie. You really do.
yeah. Well, the guy is a great actor, but man, he was so sincere, so believable, and it could be so easy to really be hokey and everything, but like no, he is just so genuinely believable and kind. And a question I'll pose to you guys that as you know, we'll talk about this more as we go through the film. But do you really think that, based off of this movie, do you think that he is actually Santa Claus, or at least that he believes he's Santa Claus? Because obviously that's never really stated in the movie. Like we get hints here and there, but we're never really given. We're not like said like, oh yeah, it's Santa Claus. It's not
Right.
like
I think I know what you're meaning because I mean, again, sorry if I'm if I'm rushing to the end, but it's very more of a technical resolution to whether or not he's Santa Claus, as opposed to like a factual, like hard authoritative kind of or definitive, yes, he's Santa. It's more of it's very because this movie, again, in the synopsis it talks about a court case, and so the ultimate decision comes down to a legal decision or a legal distinction as opposed to a definitive one.
That's because can you dispute that he's not?
Right, exactly. It's
and that's what okay. And that's what Fred Daly is arguing against. Like, you can't prove he's not Santa.
That's right.
Right, and that's all he had to do, is because the what is it, the state of New York, which is the I guess the plaintiffs in this case, they were the ones making the argument that he wasn't Santa Claus, and so it was incumbent on them to prove that he wasn't Santa Claus.
Yeah.
The thing that I always lean back on when kids come up to me, either if I'm in the suit or not, and they'll ask me, says, "Are you Santa Claus?" And what I do is I don't come out and just lie to them. I just come out and I just go, "Shh, don't tell anyone."
Right. I mean, yeah, especially when you're on vacation,
Because, well, yeah, I mean, when I'm, out there fishing and stuff, it just kind of blows the kid's mind. But the point being, and when I'm in the suit and I am talking to these children, do they believe I'm Santa? And that's what's more important to me than you or someone else saying, no, he's just an old guy in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting calls from the elves.
I know, right?
They're saying back to work, Santa. Hey, you gotta feed those reindeer.
I know, they're running low on Legos, Santa.
Oh man.
But yeah, that's that's, to me, that's one of the themes of the movie, is that it's about, like, not about that is he Santa Claus or not, but it's about the belief in Santa Claus and the belief in something, having an imagination, having that wonder, that is, in one of our main characters, in Natalie Wood's character, her whole life that she's had, the imagination and wonder and everything has been stripped away from her mom. And it's through the relationship with Fred Daly and Kris Kringle that it's brought back. And it's like and you can tell that she wants that wonder and imagination, and like, just what you were saying, Santa, it's so great to see that wonder, kind of come to life in her character.
I'll share one of the experiences that I have on a kind of a regular basis. I've been doing this for over 7 years, and the thing that gets me is when a child comes up and they say, "Hey, are you really Santa?" And I always tell them, "Well, what do you think?" And then they'll reach up and pull on my beard and they'll go, "Oh, that's real." And I go, "Yeah, it's real. Uh, you know, yeah, it's just like in the movies." And when you see the child's eyes light up, the joy that overwhelms them because they're able to sit and talk to Santa and tell him what they would like to have for Christmas. And I mean, that's my reward is that innocence and that surprise, that the real um, response to the character. And I'll also get this from some of the parties that I do for adults, which is really interesting. When we get time to talk about that, that's another story. But the spirit of Santa Claus and the spirit of Christmas isn't just for kids; it's for everyone, and that's what I always try to put out there.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about Maureen O'Hara's character, because God, what a knockout! First of all, uh,
Hands
Good
down.
looking woman.
yeah, her
Mhm.
character is Doris Walker. She has lived, for this movie is 1947. What a tough lady, because her clearly she had a pretty turbulent past. We're never really given the full story of exactly what happened with her ex-husband, boyfriend. We don't really. I think it's her ex-husband.
Right.
Um,
Well, yeah, well, at least as insofar as what she is admitted that she is a divorcee.
so yeah, so ex-husband. Um, and from the few things that we can gather from what's said in the film, that she married very young, and she
Hmm.
had a lot of that kind of that childlike wonder, and kind of like wanting to have that fairy tale life, and yet it all crumbled to pieces, and she chose to rid herself of that.
I
And
I have a theory on why her character is like that.
go for it, Andy.
Yeah.
So do I.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my theory is that um, Doris Walker, Maureen O'Hara's character, her husband was, a bit of a dreamer, and he was the type to, he was one like, he was always trying to, make it big, or he was like really, he was very susceptible to get rich quick schemes, and so he would constantly kind of what's the like kind of like bullshitter and be like, like, oh yeah, baby, this is the next big thing. This is our ticket out of here. We're gonna be living on Easy Street, and so and
Taking the liberty of bullshitting her.
right, no, exactly. And so he yeah, so he would like constantly tell her these fantasies about like how they're gonna make it, or like this new venture, this is gonna be the thing that gets us to where we are, and what have you. And because again, because they get married young, and she probably didn't go to college or whatever, get continue on in any formal education, um, and so she just believed her husband. And then it got to the point where like it's like they were being like they constantly had to move out of like their apartments, or there are times that they had to like sleep in like seedy motels, and it's just like it's like, and then like the husband spent like their their last dime like 5 or 6 times too many on on the next big thing, that she had enough of it, and so she ended with him. But because of that, it hardened her into not wanting to bring up their daughter as a dreamer, or someone who fills their head with fairy tale
High hope.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Hey,
It's very close to my thinking when I went over this subject, thinking of, wow, why is she so negative?
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing we have to remember, though, is the period of time that we're dealing with. This is 1947. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the child's 8 years old. So this means that they were married before World War II started.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And so they'd gone through a lot just there. Was he in the service? He may have. He may have been, he's one of the, and you know people, same as I know people, that have that personality, that they're always thinking of something grand that's going to happen, or, hey, only if I win the lottery, I can do this, or, wow, why don't we try this, as a business, and this is a business. And some succeed and some don't. It doesn't mean that he was a bad person in my eyes.
No,
It
no.
just was but this put a kind of a bitter taste in her, and non-belief in opening her mind to the possibilities, which we call an imagination, that can actually come true. So she kind of said, "No, I've had enough of these well wishes and big ideas that don't come true." And that's the way I feel that she was kind of burned in that respect. Um, but the rejoice thing is how much she finds when she falls in love, and next thing you know, things start to turn around the other way. And she sees it in her daughter. And you got to remember, though, too, is that they were working on her
Oh
more
yeah.
ways than one. Uh, which I find rather funny was he was using the little girl to get closer to her, and
I
they
would.
were cahooting together,
Yeah.
to do this, and that makes a kind of a comical thinking underneath all this, that what was going on was more than what we saw.
Well, the thing is, what it makes me wonder, like, where did her dad go? I mean, like, was it just that uh Doris left, her husband, and like took Susie with her? Or was it like, the dad ended up being, after all those kind of failed ventures that you're theorizing on, did he just like, was he just a deadbeat, and he's like, well, he abandoned the family, and like kind of maybe was still just like, was so focused on chasing that glory that he just, oh, my family's gone, whatever, you're just so focused on the dollar signs or whatever, you're not focused on trying to make a life for your family. um and I think if this if this movie wasn't so wholesome, uh the relationship of like how Fred Daly is kind of not using Susie, um it's a little bit of a creepy relationship in a way. But in this movie, it's not creepy at all. And in a way, I think Susie and Fred are teaming up because Susie likes Fred. She thinks he's a good guy, and she wants a dad. She wants her mom to be happy. She wants to live in a nice house with a family and have like a realistic life. Like the typical American family life that's been kind of stripped away from her in a lot of ways.
You have to also, I don't know if you caught it in the movie because it's kind of subtle, but near the beginning of the story with her, she discussed her friends at school, that she didn't really have any,
She doesn't have friends.
because because of her thinking of, oh, well, that's all wish wash. My mom told me, that that's not true, and
Well,
so
they
this
because they
kind of
want
separated her from her contemporaries, because of her thoughts weren't matching the kids' thoughts. So I think she was very lonely
well,
Right.
as well.
Well, yeah, like in the when she was talking to the Chris Kringle character, and
Mhm.
she was talking about like the playing or trying to play with the kids, other kids in the building, and how like they're some of the building kids were in the basement playing zoo, and like she said like, oh
Exactly.
well, yeah, it's like, well, you only animals, one of the kids like, only animals in here, what animal are you? And she's like, I'm not an animal, I'm a
a
girl.
little girl.
Yeah, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
She's too like she's not like she's not able to play with them because like that's stupid. It's pretend. It's not real. It's like, yeah, we know it's not. It's but she's not able to use her imagination.
mhm.
Um, oh shoot, I had a point.
Well, I look at it that I remember as a child, which, yeah, it's been a long time, but I do remember when I
Okay,
was
it's not
growing
usually
up.
right,
Yeah, when the dinosaurs were roaming. Um, I remember playing my superhero back in my day was Superman.
Mhm.
So what did I play? I put a towel around my back of my neck as a cape, and I played Superman. And
Mhm.
with my contemporaries, I did the same thing. Same thing with playing um, Indians and cowboys. You know, these are all things that we do as a child with our imagination that makes us very happy. That's called playing.
Mhm.
yeah.
And when you learn how to play, it makes you very happy. I mean, I've
Mhm.
always, I would sit for hours and hours in a puddle of mud with my army guys, playing with
Right.
my little army things,
Yeah.
and
And
sure you had to have imagination. Otherwise you say, why are you sitting there in the mud? You know.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
You know, the it's obviously it's not stated in this movie, but I also did watch the remake of this movie, and the way that the girl was described, that Susie was described as, like, oh, that, I think there's that little girl that talks like a 64-year-old woman here. It's
Mm.
like that's exactly what Susie reminds me of. She isn't a, yeah, she's 8 years old, but she
Right.
acts
She's
like an adult.
yeah, she's 45 going on 8.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah, and
and
unhappy.
Yeah, and
yeah,
it's kind of like
you're
what
right.
the Edmund Gwynn character was saying, talking about like imagination, how it's a muscle, and like you have to utilize, you have to work it out, you have to stretch it for it for it to work again. And it was like, and it seemed to him that Susie's imagination hadn't been used in a while. Um,
Well,
And
when you're not used to using your imagination for things, because if we really think about it, that goes as an adult as well. We don't stop imagining things. We still continue to imagine things and play things out in our
right.
head.
Yeah, it's just in
You know,
different fashion. Like
it's just, yeah,
instead of the new bike that you've been dreaming of, imagining, like riding down the street, it's the new car.
right.
um
The toys get bigger
yeah,
and
the
more
toys get
expensive.
bigger.
Yeah.
who because clearly, like, when we're first introduced to these characters, because we're watching the we're introduced first, like, with Doris and Kris Kringle, and like the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade. And
Mhm.
then we're Doris is like, I'm fucking exhausted, I'm going home. She's been planning, that the Macy's Thanksgiving Day parade is a huge deal.
Mhm.
Oh,
So
yeah.
that's months of planning and
Still is.
Yeah,
preparing.
or like at least a year even.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
it is.
she's tired. So it's like, I'm going home, it's cold. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna
Um,
yeah, like she's out in the cold, like she's
That's
gonna
a lot of
slip into
work.
a warm bath, and
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
and
a lot of work.
it is
yeah.
a lot of work.
But the how we're introduced to her daughter Susie, and how we're introduced um Mr. Daly, is played by John Payne. My question, because clearly they had been, their neighbors, we know that.
Hmm.
There's definitely a relationship there, because who lets their 8-year-old daughter hang out with their
Yeah, with the
adult male neighbor?
older
With the
bachelor
bachelor
living in
next
the
door,
building.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So clearly there's some, and I don't know if there was like a friendship, or already a connection between Doris and Fred. Not as far as like a romantic connection potentially. But my question is, who do you think approached who first? Like, because clearly, like, Susie and Fred are somewhat in cahoots. Uh, I think clearly there is a respect and love between those two. Like, I think Fred genuinely loves Susie like a little daughter. And has obviously done, maybe has probably stepped in to help take care of Susie, and while Doris is Doris is working a lot. She's a single mom in 1947, and she
And
busts
she
her
has
out.
a nanny.
So,
She has a nanny though.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
like a
true.
house.
That's right.
Yeah,
There is the
Yeah, she
nanny.
has someone that takes care of her,
right.
when she's at work. So
But I would
I
also
think
say, I'm sorry, Santa. Continue. Finish your thought.
no. The only thing I was going to say on that thought was that the connection between um, Susie and him happened with the nanny in the hallway or anything over
Mm-hmm.
time. And
Mm-hmm.
if we look at some of the script and what they have said ahead of time, when you know that they're at cahoots trying to get her to go out with her mom,
Yeah.
Oh, so the
you can.
nanny's in on it.
You're right. So the nanny's got to be in on it. Otherwise, why would the nanny let him go to that pervert next door, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So what I'm saying is, this was a plot. She didn't have a chance because,
Right.
and then I love the statement that they make that yeah, you get close to mom by doing favors and loving the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
that's a common thing. Uh,
Yeah. I
and if
mean,
you're
well,
going to
yeah.
get
Nowadays, it'd
close
be
to
more
a,
like getting close to the dog to get to the girl.
well, that's if you don't have children, yeah, or the cat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Oh God.
But yeah,
so
I mean, just really quickly, I want to comment, like, because it to our modernized, it might be weird,
Creepy.
the creepy about the relationship, or like, or how close how close is Doris Walker to Fred Gailey. But it was a different time then. Also, when neighbors actually knew who each other were, and were at least
absolutely.
somewhat inserted in each other's lives, and particularly living in an apartment building in New York City. You knew your neighbors. You knew
Yeah.
who's like on the right, the left, above you, below you. These people weren't
Mhm.
that they weren't they
weren't
weren't
strangers.
strangers. They
Yeah.
weren't
No.
strangers.
And we also have to remember, this is the, obviously, we're a lot more jaded nowadays, but this isn't Lolita, in the,
Right.
in this world, and like this time frame, it's definitely a lot. Like you said, it's a lot more wholesome. There's not really, as far as like the, it's not like a pedophilic type of relationship or whatever. It's it's very wholesome, and
Mhm.
it's actually very touching. It's kind of nice to see
It
something
is.
like that,
It is.
where it's not like some creep that's trying to.
Right, yeah, because even
Well,
in
when
like
when
even you could tell from like the interaction between Fred and Susie that it's very paternal, like the
yes,
way he like asks her questions, or the way he tries to like encourage her to uh, you know be more like a child, and just like, oh, and like kind of phrasing questions in certain ways. It's very paternal, um, and I think
the
and
the thing that's kind of interesting though, even though this was 1947, let's bring it up to modern day. If
mhm.
you are going to date a woman that had a child, if you don't get along with that child, you ain't got a chance.
Oh no, yeah,
No
that
fucking
is
way.
the first and ultimate gatekeeper to a mother.
Exactly. And kids of innocence like that can pick out a
The
bad
creeps.
guy a lot
Yeah.
easier than mommy can.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
And their intuitiveness in
Oh
that
yeah, a
respect
child's
is,
bullshit meter is
oh
an
yeah.
acute and finely tuned thing.
And unfortunately, the way things have progressed in the world, where now the woman has to be a lot more careful because there are idiots out there. Even
Hmm.
as Santa, we have uh, we have an insurance policy that we take out every year because of child molestation. It's an insurance that they screen you, okay, and check your record and everything else, that I'm not a pervert.
Oh wow.
And even though you
Oh, you
guys
are
might
a
think
pervert,
I
man.
am,
I know you. I know you are.
Yeah, it's just because we know you so
but
well. All right, it's just because we
but
know
it
you so well.
but it's come to the point where you have to protect yourself because of
Mm.
the laws and the awareness of that issue out there.
Yeah. But
And
you're not that type of pervert that I want to shoot
Yeah.
dead.
Yeah, you're not the type of pervert that we want to give a lead injection to.
No, I love kids. I raised two girls, and you know, as far as I'm concerned, kids is what it's all about.
Mm,
And I like seeing a child grow up with the innocence as long as possible. The world is too cruel and too rough to
to do
try to
that
do
to a
anything
child.
different. I like to keep them as happy as possible and keep that imagination going, you know, as long as they can.
Mm,
And I get that a lot when you look at these children and they look at you and they go, "Oh man, it's Santa," and they all light up. That's just phenomenal. There's no words for that.
mm. Right. Kind of doubling back to the Christmas story. Like even in that movie, Ralphie believed in Santa.
Hmm.
And he was again like similar age to Natalie Wood's character in this movie, and so it's a very endearing thing when you see like the earnest belief in a child, like because when in the in A Christmas Story, Ralphie was trying to come up with all these ways of, getting his, prize, Red Ryder air rifle, and then it just like it came to him like immediately. It was like Santa, I'll go as Santa.
Head
You know
honcho, the
Right.
big man.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Well,
and
what's
so
uh, what's kind of interesting, I don't mean to cut you off, but this is really funny.
mhm,
They turn around and see a lot of times when I do my thing, the parents are within an earshot, and I like them within an earshot
mhm,
because then when they ask me for what they want for Christmas, I make sure they hear it.
right.
And some of the responses coming back, or the looks that I get from the parents are just priceless.
Well,
Is it that? Is it well? Is it that they're surprised at what the kid wants?
Sometimes, but there are occasions. This happened in, of course, not last year because last year Christmas was put on hold, unfortunately.
Mm,
But the year before it, I had a child come up and very sincere, very, very serious. And I asked her, I says, "Well, what would you like for Christmas?" And in a straight face, she looked right at me and she says, "Well, I don't want my parents to fight anymore."
oh, jeez.
And I about fall out. I
Hmm.
actually went silent for a few minutes and I thought about it, and the only thing that I could respond that would to me be sufficient because I want to give her an answer. I told her, "Well, we're going to have to pray over that." And
Mm.
that's what I left her with. But sometimes you come up with, these innocent kids, man, with some just blow you away with the questions and or ask. I had another one that came up, and this one floored me. She was probably in the fifth grade, I would say. So she's a little bit on the older side, and
Mm.
I asked her the same question, and she goes, "Well," and she went through this list of all her siblings, and there must have been like six, and her mom and her dad and her cousin and her uncle.
Mm.
She was all asking presents for them and not
Mm.
one for her.
Wow.
Wow.
And I sit there and I went, "Now, wow, that blew me away." And I says, "What a wonderful child that she thinks of others before she thinks of herself at that age."
Mm-hmm.
That's
So there's at times where I'm learning something, and I get shocked at some of the things that they say, and it's the wonder it comes out of an innocent child's mouth, and I just
Mm-hmm.
get blown away.
Yeah, from the lips of babes, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the parents are sitting there and they're hearing it, except for the one that they were fighting. They weren't nearby.
they were busy
Yeah.
fighting while you were talking to the girl,
I
right?
know,
Yeah, they
right?
they were in the background arguing over something, but
The I'm glad you brought this up, Santa, because this is a great segue to the film too. Because one of the major plot points of the movie is Edwin Gwynn as Kris Kringle does such a great job at the parade. It's like, he's fantastic. This is the best Santa you've ever had for the parade. It's like, we're gonna hire him, because he's so good. And the when he is having all the kids come and meet him, and having them sit on their lap, and he's like, oh, what do you want for Christmas, young boy or young man? It's like, well, I want this toy. It's like, well, you're gonna get it. And it's like, and the mom, which you might recognize, she is a great character actor. She's been in movies like The Misfits and Rear Window. She was the nurse of Jimmy Stewart's character.
Right.
And she's like, are you? It's like, let me talk to you, Santa, real quick. It's like, are you? That toy is too expensive.
Yeah, or like it's out of stock, and I remember that scene.
Well, Macy's doesn't have it.
Yeah, exactly.
But if you go to Gimbals,
right?
I know. Yeah, I know for a fact that Gimbals, or I know for a fact that this other store, has it. Like, it has plenty in stock, and yeah, I thought that is crazy because I don't think I ever saw that part, but like even today, that's a pretty a radical thing to send, potential customers to your competitors.
Well,
it'd be like Amazon saying like, oh, well, we don't have this, but Alibaba has this.
Exactly. But the difference is though, you see, he put the child before the money or anything else in life.
Yeah, that's all.
And that's what Santa's supposed to do.
Yeah.
The whole thing of Christmas is not for the merchants or for making money or anything. What it's really after is the joy of children. And that's what a lot of people actually miss every Christmas. They think of the dollars, or they think of the prize. And it's the old expression that if you really think what this statement says, then you'll understand what Christmas means to me. It's not the present, it's the thought. And that to me is what it's all about. It's not so much that, oh, wow, man, I didn't get my Mercedes Benz this year. I would like to have the commercial for Mercedes Benz, yes, but I'd be a wealthy man. But what I'm saying is it's all about the child. It's not about materialistic stuff that comes and goes. And that's what finally clicked in the movie with Mr. Mason, was the idea of what was the feedback in the movie. If you remember right, they got together, Gimbals got together and said, well, look what Macy's doing. Look at the paper, and they talked and were saying how great Macy's is that they would do this, that it put them above Gimbals. And then, of course, they respond back the same way. But again, there's a principle there that, and I like to bring them out because there's so many in this particular movie that's telling you a lesson. It's about the kids. It's not about how much money, the toy costs or anything else. But if you can afford that particular toy, then you'll move heaven and earth to get it.
Yeah. Because I remember before that scene, obviously, like, he's the Macy's Santa, and he was given this list, like, okay, these are the things that we want to push this year and all that.
Right.
And, he was having this great conversation with the janitor, who was a 17-year-old kid who also kind of had the same spirit as Kris Kringle, and he's like, yeah, I'm not doing this. He crumbled the thing up, ripped it up, and he's like, oh, what do I do with this? Like, just throw it on the ground. I'll just, I like being able to sweep something other than nothing. It's just like, it's like,
that was a great line.
And and I think like he threw that out not because he wanted, he was not rebellious. But the elves are calling again.
The elves are calling me again.
the
Red of cocoa.
yeah, had a cocoa and canes. The
Turn the heater up.
but like you were saying, Anna, it was about the kids and making sure that their dreams and their imagination came true. And that's really the whole. That's one of the big plots of the movie. It's about imagination and about caring about the kids, and like what's important for them. What's gonna make them, have joy at Christmas. And if that means that I had to send their or a competitor, so be it. It doesn't matter. And I think that it's such a great message to send for the movie itself. Just because that is one of the subplots. Obviously, we have like the love story and like the connection with Susie Walker and all that, but this is like kind of the other plot that is really important to the movie and kind of sets up like the court case.
Right. Rob, I want to ask you.
The court case to me is hilarious, because if you look at the poor judge, the judge was caught in the middle.
Yeah, he was put in this. Yeah, he was put in this impossible position where he had to basically stand in judgment of Santa Claus, whether or not he actually was Santa Claus or he's just a crazy person. But like, just the kind of like to use a modern terminology, the optics of it were not great. I mean, so much so that like it filtered down to like his own grandkids and how they're pissed off at him because he was standing in judgment. He was gonna go stand in judgment of Santa.
His wife was furious at him.
It's like, everybody was.
That dude slept on the couch. I guarantee.
And his friend was wise enough to know from the beginning you should have never taken that case.
By the way, played by William Frawley, as we all know, Mertz.
Fred Mertz, yes, from from the I Love Lucy. I want to quickly ask you, Rob, because as Santa said that kind of the main thrust or the A plot of this movie is about like just about the children and Christmas spirit and how like Christmas has became like so commercialized. Was the remake or like the modern remake is that the same note that they went with, or because I mean by the 90s, because this movie the remake came out in the 90s, and by that time commercialism is just run amok with Christmas. So
it was although the way that the court case came about like was a little bit different. It wasn't because in the remake, I assume they didn't get the rights to use like Macy's and like the actual like actual store names. They had to come up with something fake. But it wasn't like a disgruntled employee at Macy's that was like, fuck this guy, like I want to see him burn to the ground. It was they kind of brought it back where like because there was still the theme of the drunk Santa and the competitor who was being outdone by the main store that Kris Kringle worked at. They used the Santa that got fired in the parade as a way to kind of goad Kris Kringle into kind of attacking him in a way, and kind of like because everyone kind of thought he was a little bit nuts. And they were just looking for an opportunity to like kind of put him in the nut house. So I think that the remake does a few things that are like fairly similar to the original. There are quite a few differences, but it's still kind of like the idea of the idea of like getting rid of the commercialism, it wasn't like where in the original we have like, Gimbals was saying is like, why didn't we think of this idea? We need to do this, and they kind of go and do that themselves. That's not what happens in the remake. That does not happen in the remake. And they kind of like they find a way to make this plot against Kris Kringle to kind of get rid of him and kind of denigrate the other business so that they can, because the other business is trying to buy out the main business. Like I think Kohl's, is COLES, not KOHL, like our Kohl's that we have. It's like something with like Planet Express or whatever the other title of the other place is called. But the other one is the more successful business, and they want to buy out this failing business in Kohl's, and it's really Kris Kringle that really saves Kohl's business. And so yeah, that part is very different in the remake as opposed to this one.
So in a way, would you say that it was almost reinforced? Like the remake was reinforcing like the idea of commercialism.
In a way, I think it was kind of reinforcing a little bit of the same idea, but I don't think that came across as strong as it did in the original. Because
exactly.
I think the remake really focused more on, they made the B plot the A plot, and they kind of flipped the plots, because there is an A and B plot in the original, and the remake flipped them.
I see. Okay.
So the story of Susie and Doris and Fred, that became the main story, and how like this was involved in their life. At least that's how I see it, and maybe people will disagree with me, but that's how I see it.
Without elaborating too much on it, I've seen the remake as well. And to summarize it up in my eyes, they didn't hit the key points like they did in the first movie.
No,
and the messages I think were more in your face in the first one than it was the second one. They kind of smoothed it over a little bit in the second one.
The remake is not a bad movie. It's a good movie. It's just not. It's not the original, and it's not. It's kind of, you have like it's well cast. Don't get me wrong. The remake is well cast, but when you compare it to the original, it's like the Doris. It's not. Maureen O'Hara to me, that's Doris Walker. Like they kind of came close in the remake, not quite, but it's not quite the same level. What's her face? Oh, God, I forget her name. The little girl that played in like Matilda,
Mara Wilson.
Thank you. She's good. She's a good child actor, but it's not Natalie Wood. Natalie Wood, the acted circles around her. You have John. I forget the guy that played Fred Daly's character, but like he's just not quite the same. It doesn't have quite the same personality as John Payne does. And I love Richard Attenborough, but he is no Edwin Gwynn. I mean, it doesn't match. It's like it's almost there, but it's not quite at the same time. Well, we haven't really talked a lot about Fred Daly yet. I mean, we've kind of talked around him, but I want to talk about his character a little bit. What do you guys think of him? Because he seems like I don't know if I would consider him a true believer per se, but what do you guys think about him? Because he seems to fight for Kris Kringle, and I'm not sure. Does he actually believe that he's Santa? Obviously he wants to help Susie become more imaginative and like, actually be a child, but do you think that he believes in this stuff?
I think that he just knows the message. He knows
Hmm.
and believes in the whole cause behind it. And
Right.
I think because of that, same as most parents, they're not going to blow Santa's cover until they're old enough to, to not believe anymore.
Hmm.
Um, the parents aren't going to shatter the kids' imagination, and
Hmm.
I don't think he would either. I think he's an adult, and seeing that trying to flip the opposite in her mind. Um, I think he believes in Kris Kringle believing he is Santa Claus, and the way he acts and the way he holds himself and the way things turn out in the movie. When we get around to the end, I do have a comment that's pretty obvious too.
And I'm thinking of this just now, also based off of Andy's theory on Doris's ex-husband. Fred himself is a little bit of a dreamer as well,
Hmm.
and
Sure.
I imagine he had a really good childhood. He had a lot of imagination, and seeing Susie, who is so focused on who has lived this life of no imagination, no myths, no legends, kind of just living in this adult world, and he's like, that is not right, and I want to fix that because she deserves a real childhood. And when he takes Kris Kringle's case, because I think he does genuinely care about the guy and like want to. I'm not sure. I'm still unsure if he actually believes he's Santa. But he does believe in Kris and thinks he's a good guy, and no one else is going to defend him. So it's like, and I'm a good lawyer, so I'm going to do it because I don't want him just cast off to the insane asylum. And his law firm is like, this is a losing case, you're going to lose. If you take this case, you're fired. And he's like, okay,
Right.
well, I quit. and
Right.
and when he does that, when he tells Doris that, he's like, yeah, I took this case and they told me that if I took it, I'm fired, so I told them I'm going to quit. Are you insane? And like she gets so pissed off at him, and it's like, and I think what she is reliving is like the whole idea that her husband living as this dreamer, believing in fantasies that don't exist, that seeing Fred, a person that she definitely has romantic feelings towards, it's like, oh, here we go again. Here's the same
Yeah.
roller coaster.
Right. Exactly. That's partly why I came up with that theory because of her extreme reaction to Fred taking on the case. It's like
Yeah,
it's
and
like
I
why why would she be like this upset with him unless like she also had like similar experience with her ex husband.
and
True.
and I think the difference is, whereas her ex-husband would probably be like, no, babe, it's gonna be okay. Like, it's just I'm right there. Like, if I just get this, I'm right there. And it's like, no, you're gonna roll snake eyes every fucking time, you loser. But him,
but if but if you notice what happened though, you see he won the case,
Hmm.
right? So now he's the biggest lawyer and much loved throughout the
Hmm.
area because he helped Santa.
but no, but here, well, I agree with that. But what I'm saying is that, but before all that, because he fought back, he didn't just acquiesce like, hey, it's gonna be okay, don't worry about it. It's like, no, he's like, how can you talk to me like this? Like, I'm not doing this just out of just some dumb whim. It's like,
No.
it's not right that whatever you believe about the guy, it's not right that they're just gonna throw him into some
Into the nut house.
insane asylum. It's not right. And I'm fighting for this guy's right to have a real life. And you're gonna talk to me like this and say that I'm just a stupid dreamer. It's kind of
Right.
like, well, screw you. If you can't see that this is not, that what's happening is not right, then I completely misjudge you. And he was willing to walk away from her, and
Hmm.
he did. And I think that's where she's like, oh, he's not just bullshitting me. It's not. yeah, he is taking a risk, but it's a calculated risk.
Right.
Right.
Well,
And
that you got to understand his argument with the judge when he was standing up there and saying, when he turned around and he said to the judge, he says, um, "You come up with somebody that says he's not Santa." It works both ways. If he wants to believe he's Santa, who are you to say he's not?
Well, and that's the thing is like he is, as a defense attorney, he's doing the right thing. It's like he is forcing the prosecution to, you have to prove yourself. You're the one
Make
that's
a case.
prove
right,
yourself.
yeah,
me.
because like it's the state, it's the plaintiffs who's making the statements. Like, this guy is not Santa Claus. Well, then now you have to prove that. It's not that Chris or the defense has to prove that he is Santa Claus. You have to disprove. It's the whole idea of like not having to prove a negative.
Yeah, it's not
And
like
so,
it's not like, oh, hey, I know this guy. He's like Barney Fife from Salina, Kansas. It's like or Mayberry. Where it's like he's actually like he's the town drunk, and you made him Santa Claus. Are you insane? It's like, or it's like, or that he's some like child murderer that is posing as Santa Claus. It's
Ivy gets out in an hour.
Yes, honey. The interesting point of that was the fact that there's little things, of course, legally they got wrong, which we understand. The other question was his birth certificate. If it says Kris Kringle on there, then legally he's Kris Kringle.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't necessarily have to come. The way they proved it, I thought, was quite ingenious with the federal law that would subsede the state law.
Right, because the state kept saying like, oh, what authoritative thing do you have that claims you're Santa Claus? We need like a slip of paper from authoritative, kind of to tie it to modern times. The idea of authoritative sources or authoritative figures. It's like, oh, you can't post this, a link unless it from, or this bit of information unless it's from an authoritative source.
Right.
And so, I think Fred
that let the judge off the hook.
Exactly. And so, and again, kind of, you can call it kismet or a Christmas miracle if you want, but that one postal sorter getting Susie's letter and saying, hey, like there's like I've seen what is it?
I
Letters
saw
to
in
Santa.
the paper that
Well,
case
yeah,
is
but
going
it's like
on.
the sorter's like, I've seen letters to Santa addressed to all over North Pole, South Pole, West Pole, East Pole, like, but never to the county courthouse.
Yeah.
And so and then the supervisor came and was like, yeah, I heard this guy, he's on trial, claiming to be Santa Claus. And then the sorter kind of gets the idea, like, hey, like, we have all those letters to Santa that we don't do squat with. And since now, like, there's an actual address where we can mail them to Santa, why don't we can take we can kill two birds with one stone.
Hey, by the way, that's a postal clerk, not a postal carrier, so we're a lot smarter than the.
Oh man, you're opening a can of worms there.
Okay, shots fired.
We're the adults, they're the kids. We pack their lunch every damn day, and they complain about like how it's the crust wasn't cut off. Oh my god!
Oh, wow, shots fired.
So that was, by the way, so like I said, that's a postal clerk that was smart. It's like, hey, why don't we just get rid of this? We have a place where we can send this mail, and it's like, why don't we just deliver it there? Smart.
Shots fired there.
I'm gonna get all the shit from all the postal.
He's gonna get.
Yeah,
no
from
mail,
all the letter
garbage
carriers
mail.
and all the drivers. Yeah, they're gonna.
Just like Homer Simpson pissed off the trash carrier or the
sanitation workers.
I'm gonna the sanitation workers. I'm gonna piss off my letter carrier. my mail's gonna end up in some like ditch somewhere.
Yeah, I know, right?
You're going to get all of Santa's letters.
Yeah.
All that dead file.
But yeah, like and you can call it like all coincidence or a miracle or kismet. But it was the thing that was enabled them to win the case. Because again, an authoritative exactly. Fred he established the authority of the U.S. Postal Service as a authoritative governing institution, and if since the postal service deemed saw fit to send the letters to this man claiming to be Santa Claus, then who are we to argue with this authoritative institution?
Can't deliver a letter to somebody that it's
doesn't
not
exist. Yeah, exactly.
That's what got the judge off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have to make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
Federal government made it for him.
And cinematic archaeology. There's a Simpsons episode that parodies this same scene where it was Homer against who was suing the all-you-can-eat restaurant.
Yeah.
It's like
the Frying Dutchman.
Let's just see how much shrimp that Mr. Simpson intook, and you just see all the people with like the bags.
Yeah, the huge sacks, and then
so much shrimp that he ate, and it's like they jump all these letters to Kris Kringle. It's like, oh, that's Springfield versus Santa Claus. That's next door. It's like so. There's a Simpsons reference for the episode.
There it is.
But I just just
really quickly, I want to back. I didn't really get a chance to answer your question about whether Fred believed. I want to say that he might not have necessarily believed that Kris Kringle was Santa Claus, but he was definitely down for the message. And that you saw it in his interactions with Susie, and how like he was constantly trying to, spark her imagination, and and give her, even like in a weird way, give her permission to be a child.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I wouldn't say that he necessarily believed that Kris Kringle was Santa Claus, but he was definitely down for the message.
Yeah, this is just, man, this is such a good movie. And and obviously it ends up coming down to, I think the funny thing is that Doris, after everything that happens, with the court case, everything, it's not Susie, but Doris that becomes more of the true believer. That there's like, I was wrong. I should have, it's okay to believe in things and to have an imagination. She comes to that realization, and she has to like tell Susie, it's like, if it doesn't happen, it's okay. It's important to believe and to have that thing. And
right, there was even I think Fred like perfectly summed it up by saying, belief is the thing. Belief is. Oh God, what was it? It was like belief is the thing that that common sense tells us not to believe, or
yeah,
I'm butchering this quote, but he perfectly it's basically saying that it's okay to believe in things, even if they don't make sense.
When we get towards the end of the movie, if you'll notice, what was Susie's? What did she want for Christmas? Right?
She
wanted that house. She wanted the house.
She wanted a mom and she wanted a dad.
Mm-hmm. And she wanted a normal life with the house and the picket fence and a swing in the backyard.
Right.
Yep.
When Christmas came, you saw Susie run to the tree, and she's looking and she's looking and she's looking, and had that very sad, disappointing look on her face. And then her mom comes there and says, "Well, what's wrong? I didn't get my wish. He's not really Santa."
He's a nice old man with a white beard.
Right. He's just an old man with a white beard. And which really is amazing, okay, and this does happen in real life too, where just circumstances are circumstances as they are driving down this neighborhood. But you got to remember, Chris Kringle gave him an address.
That's right. He gave him the
Okay?
directions.
He gave him the directions. Okay,
Was
so
that what happened? Because I must have missed that part.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
right at
like
the end of the
yeah,
movie.
they were like kind of like outside the city to go visit him at like that old folks home or whatever that he lives in,
Right.
and then
Right.
he's like, oh no, and then like Fred,
Let me give you the directions.
Doris, yeah, it's like it's like don't take like the normal way back home. Here, you should, this here's a faster way route or whatever,
Right.
kind of bullshit that he made up to get them to that specific house.
So as they're driving down the street, of course, the house that he had in the paper or the magazine that he showed Susie was there, and said, "Stop the car! Stop the car! It's true! It's true!" And she runs over to the house and everything else, and they walk in, and it's
Yeah.
this is just what I wished for.
And
And
it
then the
just so
two of
happened to
them
be
kind
for
of looked
sale.
at each other, and then he said, "Well, we could probably swing it. We could probably get this house."
Mhm.
But then the last scene that you see in the movie, which is just I love,
The cane.
is you see Chris Kringle's cane
Mhm.
leaning in the corner.
Mhm.
So
Next
it
to the
leaves
fireplace,
you
I
with
believe.
Oh, and they're both like,
And best of all, it's leaned right next to the fireplace.
yep,
right.
yep.
And then it's the thought that runs through everybody's head.
It's
Is
like,
he really Santa?
Mhm.
yeah. And see, I love that's the way the movie ended, because you're like, it's not explicit, but it's like maybe.
Mhm.
Now it's said you make the decision, is he real or is he
It
not?
forces you to use your imagination.
That's
Right? Yeah,
right, exactly. It's the
it's just
full
like Shane.
circle.
It's just like Shane.
And when you put all that when you put all that together, it's just a phenomenal movie. It's one of my very favorites.
That is
And
great. That's actually a great comparison. Yes, this is Shane.
Right? Yeah. Is Shane dead or is he just slumped in a saddle?
yeah. So
It's like
anyway,
you decide.
yes, they leave it up to the audience, which I love. It leaves you hanging in back to the beginning of the whole movie.
Right.
Is he Chris? Uh, is he Santa or is he not?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought
A
phenomenal little bit
contemporary.
of tidbit that most people will miss in the movie.
Right. Right. But yeah, I think I'm pretty sure Chris Nolan probably saw this movie too, because I think that's where he got the idea for at the end of Inception with like the spinning top.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. I could totally see that. Um, and oh man, it's just this movie is so great. I the casting was great. The story was great. Uh, man, I can't. I'm definitely I God, I wish my wife would watch black and white movies. Maybe I'll have to show her the colorized version.
Show her the
Yeah,
color one.
you're gonna have to. You're just gonna have to suffer through it then.
I just have to make sure that she doesn't see the year.
Yes, and find the best version of the colorized version as possible.
Yeah, if there's like a Blu-ray of like the color version or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, I know exactly.
You have to look around though online too, because I think there was, and I don't remember right now offhand, but one of them, I think it was Netflix that wanted to. I think it was Netflix that wanted to charge you for the show, and the other one didn't, which was Paramount, I think.
I
Or I
saw it
may
on
have it mixed up. It may be the other way around.
HBO this year.
That's where I saw it, HBO Max.
Yeah, but they had
And
the
that,
black and white one. I didn't see the colorized version.
they had both there.
Oh,
They
they
had
do.
both there. Yeah.
But yeah, they had the both the original and the remake together. So I watched them together back to back.
Yeah, the original one I think is 34. I think.
Okay.
the black and white silent.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
I'm trying
Well, for me, guys, this has been a blast, but my reindeers are about ready to have a fit on the roof, and I'm going to have to slip out of here.
that's what I was gonna say. Like,
Yeah.
I have nothing else really to say about Miracle on 34th Street other than what we talked about and how great of a movie it is.
Absolutely.
Well, now your audience that will watch this, I hope they will come back and watch that movie and see what they think about it, and send some comments to these two jerks and see if what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, yeah, since we have nothing else to say, but let's wrap things up. But before we do that, let's give our ratings. Santa, if you would, what's your rating for Miracle on 34th Street out of 5, please?
It's 5 all the way. I mean, if you could give it more, I'd give it more.
All right. Rob, what about you?
I can't. How can you argue with Santa Claus? It's 5 stars. Edwin Gwynn is the best adaptation for Santa ever. He's so great in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Natalie Wood, as a child actor, just acted circles around everybody. She's insanely good.
Mm-hmm.
Maureen O'Hara is a knockout, and she's great. And John Payne is really great as Fred Daly.
Mm-hmm.
You got William Frawley, and even like all like the side characters who have been in a bunch of other films too. Great character actors, and just the story is so powerful. And how can I not give it 5 stars?
Absolutely. All right, then we're all in agreement then. 5 stars, or at least 5 for me as well, out of 5, for all the reasons that Robert gave, and because it is endorsed by Santa himself. So how could I not?
You can't argue with Santa.
I know. How could I disagree with Santa?
I would like to make one last statement, if I may.
Go for it.
I wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. May it be fruitful and healthy. And you two jerks are in my heart. Take care.
You hear that? We are in Santa's heart, specifically.
We have inroad to Santa.
Yeah, right. We have the connect. We have the connect for Santa. All right. So.
Well,
all right,
I'm gonna go wrangle my reindeer. So I will see you guys on the other side. See ya.
All right. Take care, Santa. All right. Let's just wrap things up then. Thank you for joining us for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I know Rob had a good time. I'm pretty sure Santa had a good time as well. I hope you guys, to echo Santa's words, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. We'll be back with new episodes next year, so be on the lookout for that. Don't forget to, if in the meantime, please do check out the library of other content, episodes of our main podcast, this one, as well as our live stream, Nocturnal Transmissions, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts, Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastTOJ, and Instagram at Circle of Jerks Podcast. With all that said, we thank you for joining us, and we'll see you all next year.
Merry Christmas, everybody.